It's Charter Local Edition on Brad Pomerance inside the state capitol in Lansing. We are joined by Tonya Schuitmaker. She is a member of the Michigan State Senate, and I'm so glad you're with us today. I'd like to speak with you about something very simple, and yet something so many of us don't know how to do, and that is CPR.
That's correct.
Give us a sense of what CPR is for those that may not know.
Well, right now, you can, if somebody's having a heart attack,
Right.
with heart disease is the #1 killer of women, and so many people, over 300,000 people die each year from sudden cardiac arrest.
And I'm glad you mentioned women, because so many of us think of heart and heart disease as an issue with men.
Right.
But the reality is those days are behind us.
That's correct.
Women are impacted by heart disease.
The #1 killer of women.
And in fact, over the weekend, I lost a friend, 52 years old, to sudden heart attack, literally sudden heart attack. And who knows what would have happened if there was CPR on site, but the reality is we should all know it, including and especially our kids.
That's exactly right. Too often we hear about a young high school student
Right.
that dies on the basketball court or the volleyball court. And in my district, I had a young man, Wes Leonard, who collapsed after shooting the game-winning shot at a basketball game. And had there been CPR administered to him and an AED device, he probably would be here today.
So let's talk about how we can educate our children, or our young adults maybe, in terms of CPR, because it doesn't take much. And you've taught me that 27 other states have CPR training for students.
That's correct. My bill simply says sometime between their 8th grade year and their senior year.
So 13 to 18, let's say.
13 to 18, that sometime during that time, that in health class, that they have to have 30 minutes of CPR instruction.
That's it. That's all you need is 30 minutes. It's not going to take away from instruction. Don't worry. They'll
No,
still
it's
learn
not.
calculus.
Exactly.
They'll still learn American history.
Exactly, but if they're not around and to
Well stated.
save lives. then-
Senator, what about the cost? Because there's always a question about cost.
The estimates are that it's less than 60 cents per student, and oftentimes schools can mitigate this and have volunteer organizations such as the Red Cross come in, and American Heart Association come in and do this,
Right.
or volunteer fire department.
Or there could be video instruction, which I know can
Exactly.
be beneficial and
Yes.
helpful. I do want to, though, talk to you about that age range, because 13, some 13-year-olds are 30, and some 13-year-olds are still 8. So talk to us about how you make it developmentally appropriate.
Well, that will be up to the individual school district as to determine how to best fit that in their curriculum sometime between their 8th and senior year, but it definitely is worthwhile. And I think when you're talking about just learning CPR, you can make it fun for all ages.
Sure. So how's the bill moving? It seems common sense, but you never know.
As you mentioned, 27 other states have adopted this, and so we hope to make Michigan the 28th state.
Right.
It's on track to be signed by the governor.
Okay.
It's passed out of committee, both in the House and the
Oh, good.
Senate, and hopefully will be signed by the governor shortly.
How did you learn that Michigan did not have this? This is one of the things that can get lost in the shuffle.
Well, I've been very active in the American Heart Association, and they came to me and said, other states are doing this.
Wow.
Oftentimes, the great ideas for bills come from
okay,
organizations
right.
out there that a good idea is, and it travels fast. And so they approached me at it, along with Representative Hooker in the House.
And so it's moving nicely.
That is, yes.
I want to talk about another matter that is of tremendous concern, and that is when our mothers, our sisters, our aunts, maybe even our brothers and uncles are a victim of sexual assault. And so often we just want to catch the perpetrator. And there are ways to do that through modern science. It can be unpleasant, but there's what's known as a rape kit, where after the assault, certain bodily fluids and hairs and stuff are taken from the victim.
Yeah, DNA analysis and technology has come so far just in the last 10 years. And so we have sexual assault tracking commission, which helps make sure that we have a statewide protocol for tracking these sexual assault.
But let's backtrack, because our viewers may not realize, a few years back in the Detroit region, it was determined, I think you had told me, 10,000 rape kits.
That's correct.
Were sitting on the shelf with nothing happening to them.
Nothing happening. Some
Untested.
of them were years old.
How did that happen?
Well, that's where the outrage really came,
Right.
and I'm just as outraged. I think that's just reprehensible that, you're a victim of crime and you depend upon your government and police department and prosecutor's office to go ahead and find that perpetrator.
Do you know how that was uncovered, that these 10,000 kits were sitting on the shelves?
Somebody just opened up a closet and exposed it. So.
And I understand that now there are still in excess of 1,000 kits untested. Statewide. Better, but still frustrating.
Exactly.
And so I understand that you have been honored by an appointment through the governor's office.
Right.
So explain that process moving forward.
He appointed Prosecutor Worthy from Wayne County, myself, Representative Laura Cox, Colonel Etchew, and some others that are very involved in the sexual assault field and victims' rights organizations to form a committee to figure out the protocol on how best to track these sexual assault kits.
And so you're coming together as we speak.
Yes.
And to make sure. So the issue isn't so much that once we get the results, they're not going into the state database. That is still happening.
That's still happening.
But we need to make sure that once the kit is, I guess there's an intake of the kit, that we know where that kit is and we know how to move through the process.
Yeah, much like you have a UPS tracking device on your packages when you order something from Amazon or other merchandisers, that you can test it and find out exactly where it is. This really empowers victims as well.
So where do you go from here? I understand the commission is fairly new. What's the process? Talk us through it.
Our first meeting was in January. We have quite an aggressive timescale. We're weighing who should be able to access the database to find out exactly where in the chain the test kit is. There's actually a lot of issues around that, and that's why it's so important to have a number of groups from different arenas around the table to point out differences, because we will be the first in the nation really to have something like this.
And that begs the question, like you said, it seems to be that each county could have its own testing protocol. Is that right?
Well, we're trying to have one statewide protocol.
In terms of the tracking?
That's correct.
So how are you going to proceed? Do you then have to go to each county, each prosecutor, and say, let's all get at the table and figure out how to do this?
Yeah, there'll be an appropriation of money to have training for all state police and all local police officers who take these kits in.
When do you anticipate that the commission will, wrap up its work or present its report?
Actually, we hope to have a final report by as early as July.
Okay, and then what will happen?
Then we'll draft bills, we'll make an appropriation of certainly the education component of it, how to do it, and right now, hopefully it will be in real-time data, so anytime, like if I'm a victim of a sexual assault, I can, plug in my special user ID number that I got when the rape kit was taken, and then find out exactly where that rape kit is in terms of being tested.
But should it take that long? I mean, forgive me if I'm being naive. You're an attorney, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, did you do criminal work? But the point is, I mean, how long should it take to test?
Oh, it should take,
days, weeks?
Probably weeks at the longest.
And
then, yeah, well, it shouldn't sit on a shelf for years like what was happening.
Okay, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Her name is Tonya Schuitmaker. She is a member of the Michigan State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerance in Lansing, Michigan today. This is Charter Local Edition.